Hey, what's up, guys? Little man with a big opinion here. Today's video, we're doing more talking. I'm leaving the academy. Uh, there is a scope that I was looking at getting. It would be new to me. I have the 6-hour Romeo 5, and it's a pretty fantastic scope for, you know, AR style rifles, anywhere from, I'd say 50 yards to, 2 to 300. Just a little red dot. It's pretty nice. I got it for a Christmas present a few years ago. I just saw the Romeo 7. Or I saw it on a YouTube video. Planning on getting that one because it's got a much better zoom on it. Anyway, today's video, so I don't rant forever, we are talking about things that are illegal. Posting things that are illegal. Because there are some things as a prepper that when the grid goes down, a lot of law and order just kind of goes out the window, in my opinion. I am very much of the mindset that if a grid down situation is bad enough that it shuts the entire grid down, it is not just a localized issue, it affects whole continents or something like that. In a lot of ways, we're going back to the 1800s. So imagine, the laws and the structure of the 1800s. Certain things were legal back then that aren't legal now. There are two really big cases that people have gotten in trouble talking about it. And then the big thing that I'm going to talk about is, hunting and fishing. So the first one that I'm talking about is the auto key guy. He basically made a piece of metal that irritated the ATF enough that they had to classify it as a firearm and seize it, and he's not allowed to use it. That's the short answer. The long answer is, from a prepping perspective, if I would have heard about this a little bit before it was starting to get traction with the feds, I probably would have purchased one. And it's one of those things of, you're a law-abiding citizen and you go to sleep and you wake up the next day and you're a criminal. Based off of my, moral upbringing from my parents, religion, the Boy Scouts and stuff like that, it would get used for its intended purpose. The guy made it so that if there was ever any type of government overreach, or World War, Civil War, something that made it to where you using your AR puts you at a disadvantage to a military with the full auto capability. And it was essentially in your hands. You were the one that took the responsibility of deciding whether or not you're going to use this or not. And I would say if nukes fell and we were in Fallout, in that scenario, I would totally use this auto key because I would want my AR to be full auto. But also, from the perspective of going through, training with the Army, doing the Alt-C course and the pop-up and ambushes and stuff like that, the only people that ever used full auto was the 240 gunner. Even the guy that had the 249 did burst fire. The only time we ever used full auto was when we had finished training, and it was easier for us to say we expended all of our ammo than have to bring ammo back and count it and do all that stuff. And we'd go full auto. But for the most part, the only advantage to full auto is, suppression through volume. But for precision's sake, most riflemen stick with semi-auto, and that's basically making their M4s just like your AR-15. They just have that option. So in a hypothetical situation, Fallout 4 happens, or Fallout New Vegas, whatever Fallout they're on at this point, I don't know. Fallout 76, that's it. Then that's a type of situation I think you should use it in. But there is that possibility that someone buys this and they're like, sweet, I'm gonna go be stupid with it. And they put it in now, and then they're breaking the law or whatever. So I can kind of understand, that situation. The other one kind of involves the military, but it kind of involves explosives, and there's a lot of gray area, and I just have to put this out here. I'm not going to tell you how to make bombs. I'm not saying I'm making bombs. We're just having a discussion about bombs. So this guy, from what I read in the article, I don't know if he was military or not military. What I do know is he was extremely privy to military tactics. That being said, I'm pretty sure anyone can set up an ambush based off of the Army standards after you do your first semester of ROTC in college, or you go through basic training. Like, how to set up the standard Army ambush. So this is what he was versed in, and he was explaining to people, this is how you set up your ambush, security, lines of fire and stuff. And he said, and in most situations, sorry, I had to get over. In most situations, you initiate an ambush with an explosive. And so part of his demonstration is he had built an explosive, like he was acting out this entire process. In most cases, the military uses a claymore that is, manufactured. In some cases, they improvise. If you've got engineer guys, then they can use, det cord and C4 and, a bunch of different stuff. But the point is, the military, from our legal standpoint right now, military is really the only people that can have explosives, can make explosives, can detonate explosives. Like, you can own a hand grenade, but it's got to have, a tax stamp, and, the price of all of the regulation on it is more than the price of the grenade. That being said, they took his video down, and they arrested this guy, because someone had watched enough of his stuff to figure out how to make the bomb that he was making, and they planned on using it against some feds. So, yeah, I can understand that being an issue. Again, in our hypothetical world, that I was supposed to get off on that exit, but in our hypothetical world, and I'm going to bring up our hypothetical world is Fallout again, just because, most of us have either played the game, heard about it, watched someone else do it. It's not a new concept. So, in this hypothetical world where I don't have to worry about someone saying, oh, why do you have bombs? Or why are you using bombs? My only thought is, the best possible way to deal with my situation. And what I mean by that is it's a fantastic way uh, to implement, or not implement, to initiate an ambush. It's loud noise, it's an explosion, so it might cause casualties. Um, so it disorganizes your uh, your enemy. It could take out key elements, and they're all over the place. It could bring, because like with the military, they say you don't want to implement an ambush unless you have 3 times the force. Um, so it could bring that within those parameters. Um, and so this is a really tough one because some people would say we live in a society where we don't have to worry about knowing how to make explosives. Um, it's illegal for us to make our, like, the closest thing to an explosive that we can have is tannerite, um, which it can do a lot of damage, but it's also kind of expensive. But my point being is you can't even experiment on your own property, with your own risk, because just making explosives for personal use is still illegal. Uh, and so most of the process for that is illegal. Um, Typically, it's highly frowned upon just to look up and know how to make stuff like this. Like, when I was first starting to play airsoft at like 14, 15, me and my friends were making like a low grade chlorine gas and smoke grenades and stuff. And the closest thing to an explosive we made, which was legal, which is kind of weird because airsoft grenades are legal. They are basically CO2, or they're like a very minor, like firework, explosive. That its only purpose is to throw a bunch of BBs all over the place. So we were making this kind of stuff, and as we got older, we got into prepping. We realized, hey, we could do that at a larger scale. If push came to shove. Because we're also the type of people that we grew up watching Red Dawn, and when we played in the woods, I know we're not really dealing with the Cold War anymore. We've got different, issues or whatever. But we seriously thought we were going to kill Russians that invaded the country, and, we were going to hide out in the woods and, camp and go nuts. So I think it is kind of important to know the risks when it comes to some of this stuff. And at some point, if a grid down situation does occur, then there's a good possibility that something in an SHTF situation could be illegal, but there's nothing there to enforce it. It's your best chances of success or survival, and everyone should know what their own rules are. And that brings me to my last point. A lot of people that say they will survive an apocalypse, which, if an apocalypse happened, I really believe it'll only be between 30 and 40% of our population, dying. That's my safe guesstimate, but I can understand the arguments for people saying it could be anywhere from 70 to 90%. I do entertain a lot of, prepping, doomsday scenarios, because it's good for you. There is a possibility of, solar flares creating EMPs. Do I think it's my greatest concern? Not really. But, whatever your cup of tea is. The point I'm trying to make here is, people have made the argument that, if SHTF happened, crap was hitting the fan, we would virtually wipe out the land mammal population. Because, it's illegal to hunt deer year round. Unless you live in, like, Alaska or, some of the other super rural places where they let you harvest, they let you hunt for harvest purpose only. Like, that is how you get your food to survive. I'm just learning in my area, based off the acreage of your land, you could get harvest tags that extend the deer season for about a month. The size of the land only lets us get dough from it, but I'll take everything I can get. But I'm telling you right now, if something happened where the money in my account was useless, it couldn't buy food for my family. If society had crumbled to the point where no one was, enforcing certain, rules and regulations, and I had exhausted my stored prepping supplies, I had, exhausted what I could consume from my fruit trees, the garden, I'm imagining SHTF happening a few years down the line, so I can be a little bit better prepared. I've got the chickens and the rabbits and maybe some more stuff set up. I don't know what I'll have set up at that point. But the point I'm trying to make is I will supplement the caloric intake that my family needs any way possible, except for probably eating humans. I'm not going to, if you've seen the board that PETA put up, saying this is where you draw the line, and so you're eating all these animals, but you don't eat your horse, your cat, your dog, your birds, and then someone's come in and drawn like apocalyptic levels of what I will eat, what I won't eat, kind of thing. But the point is, I will hunt and I will shoot darn near anything that I can get my hands on. And, based off the size of our property, I mean, we've got like a 20 to 30 deer within the herd on our property. If we're starving, and I've exhausted all the other options, Bambi's on that list. Bucks that don't meet the criteria to be harvested, they're on that list. And there are millions of hunters out there that their hunting only supplements, their food intake. So we would most likely exhaust our wild game population. And if that's the case, I think some would survive, deep within national forests and stuff. But if I had to hunt animals outside of season and they didn't meet regulation, and it got to that point, I'm breaking the law. There's a difference when, society's functioning and, we can go to the store, get stuff, you can hunt within the season, so, we maintain populations. But am I advocating for you to break the law? No. that's not what I'm trying to do here. What I am trying to tell you, which our conversations about, our conversations is about you know stuff that preppers do that's probably illegal, and and grid down, I am my own law or whatever. At least for what I have talked about, the three things I talked about today, you know, push comes to shove, you do what you need to do for your family, your group. Um, from a religious standpoint, the only person that judges you is God. Um, and then lastly, just, if you have a moral system, then I think you'll do just fine. But, I also say that when society is, you know, completely up and running and we've got no issues as of right now. So, that being said, what are your thoughts on this? What are other things that preppers advocate for? And I definitely took a wrong turn here. I have no idea. I'm coming into a like a power plant. Yep, I'm turning around. Even on my Google Maps, this road isn't popping up. I don't know where I'm at, but I gotta get this video over. Anyway, so, what are your thoughts on what we talked about in today's video? Obviously, even if you're not a prepper, there are probably things that you would do for your family, to keep them safe, healthy. Yeah, it's like a train drop-off depot. But, there are things that you're going to do for your family. Probably aren't, always legal, but you think family is super important. So, what are some other things that preppers might do in a grid down situation that you think, hey, they're illegal right now, but I'm just getting ready. It increases my chances of survival, and blah blah blah. Let's have a discussion about it. And lastly, I did a video a few days ago talking about doing a gear review on some of the stuff I use at my bushcraft camp. And so the first video for that is going to be coming out pretty soon. So be ready to check that out, and then let me know if there's any gear that y'all use that you think I should try out, add it to my budget for prepping. But I'll catch you in the next one.